Tupac is one of the greatest rappers of all time. Even though he was killed at just 25 years old, Tupac dropped multiple classic albums, starred in hit movies, and changed the sound of rap forever. From his early rise in the West Coast rap scene to getting murdered in the middle of one of the most heated beefs in hip-hop history, this is the full story of Tupac. Tupac was born on June 16, 1971 in East Harlem, New York City. On his original birth certificate, his name was listed as Lassane Parish Cooks. But the day after he was born, his mom renamed him Tupac Amaru Shakur. Tupac Amaru was a leader from Peru who fought in the war against the Spanish in the 1700s for the independence of his people. Tupac's parents were both into politics, and they were part of the Black Panther Party in New York City in the 60s and 70s. Right before he was born, Tupac's mom, Afeni Shakur, was acquitted of over 150 charges after being arrested for being a member of the Panther 21. The Panther 21 was a group of 21 Black Panther Party members who were arrested for planning a conspiracy to bomb police stations and other public buildings in New York. Afeni and the others were charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to bomb buildings, and other charges, and she spent about 2 years locked up fighting the case. She got pregnant with Tupac while she was waiting for trial and gave birth about a month after she was found innocent. At the time, she was married to a dude named Lumumba Shakur, but the marriage ended after Lumumba found out the baby wasn't his. Tupac's biological father was a dude named Billy Garland. Billy Garland says he lost contact with Afeni when Tupac was about 5 years old and didn't see him again until he was 23. Growing up, Tupac didn't know who his real father was because Afeni told Tupac his dad got killed. Around the time Afeni lost contact with Billy Garland, she remarried a dude named Mutulu Shakur and had a daughter with him, Tupac's half-sister Sekiwa. Mutulu was also a member of the Black Panthers who ended up spending over 30 years in prison. In 1981, Mutulu was accused of being a part of a group that robbed an armored truck in Nanuet, New York. The crew got away with over $1.6 million after robbing a Brinks truck in the parking lot of a mall. 2 security guards ended up getting shot and one of them died. 2 police officers were also killed after they tried to stop a getaway vehicle. Police claimed Mutulu was the ringleader, and they brought a RICO case against the entire group for the robbery and the murders, along with a bunch of other crimes. Mutulu spent about 5 years on the run and was even put on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. He was eventually arrested in '86 and sentenced to 60 years in prison. Mutulu and Afeni got divorced in '82, not long after he went on the run. At the time, she was working as a paralegal to support the family, but she was also struggling with an addiction to crack. Afeni started dating a dude named Kenneth Saunders, aka Legs, who's a small-time drug dealer and an associate of the Harlem drug lord Nicky Barnes. Tupac claims that Legs was the closest thing he had to a father figure, and for years, Pac thought that Legs was his real dad. Legs was a street dude and did time for credit card fraud. Tupac later said that Legs was the one who taught him about the streets and inspired his thug life mentality. But Legs was also the one who introduced Tupac's mom, Afeni, to crack. She struggled to hold down a job in the family and had to go on welfare to survive. They moved around a lot, and in '84, when Pac was about 13, the family left New York and moved to Baltimore. They ended up moving to the Penn Lucy neighborhood of Baltimore, and Tupac started going to Roland Park Middle School for 8th grade. On the bus to school, Tupac met another kid named Dana Smith, aka Mouseman. Mouseman was a huge fan of hip-hop and always wanted to get home so we could watch Rap Attack on Web at 4 p.m. Mouseman was also a talented beatboxer and asked Tupac if he knew how to rap. Pac spit a freestyle off the dome, and Mouseman was blown away by how good it was. From then on, Mouseman and Tupac were best friends and shared a love for rap legends like Eric B., Rakim, and Run DMC. It wasn't until later on that Mouseman found out that the verse Tupac spit wasn't even original. Pac had lifted a verse from a Curtis Blow song that was popular in New York, but hadn't made it to Baltimore. But by that point, it didn't really matter because they were already close homies. After that, Tupac and Mouseman would meet up every day after school to write rhymes. Even though Tupac was a hip-hop head, he was also into all different kinds of music like Kate Bush and U2. That's what also made his music stand out. Tupac started winning competitions at school for being the best rapper. With Mouseman beatboxing, Tupac would perform any chance he could get. From rapping to the drug dealers on Old York Road, to opening up for a local group called Mantronix at the Cherry Hill Rock Center. After graduating from 8th grade, Tupac moved on to Paul Laurence Dunbar High School, but in 10th grade, he decided to transfer to the Baltimore School of the Arts to study poetry, ballet, and jazz. Back in New York, Tupac had also done some acting and performed in a play called Raisin in the Sun. So when he got to the Baltimore School for the Arts, he decided to go back to acting and perform in a bunch of Shakespeare plays. At home, things were still pretty rough though. The family was living in poverty, and Tupac's mom, Afeni, was getting deeper and deeper into her addiction to crack. So acting and music gave Tupac an outlet and a way to escape his tough home life. Around that time, Tupac formed a close relationship with another theater student at the Baltimore School for the Arts, Jada Pinkett Smith. Jada also had a tough home life, and just like Tupac, her mom was also addicted to drugs. At the time she met Tupac, Jada claimed she was selling crack to support herself, but they quickly bonded over their passion for art and the struggles they went through growing up. Even though they never officially dated, Jada claims that Tupac was the love of her life and they maintained a close friendship, even after they both blew up and got famous. In high school, Tupac was serious about becoming an actor, but he also never gave up on music. Tupac and Mouseman recruited their other two friends, Darren Bassfield and Gerard Young, to start a group called Born Busy. They started recording tapes after school, which were some of Tupac's earliest musical recordings. At the time, Tupac was rapping under the name MC New York, which was inspired by his childhood in Harlem. Born Busy would meet every day after school to work on music. Tupac was clearly the leader of the group, and everyone knew he had the potential to be a big star. But the group never had a chance to take off because just before senior year, Tupac told everyone that he was moving to California with his family. Afeni thought the family could get a fresh start on the West Coast and escape all the poverty and crime of their neighborhood in Baltimore, but life in California wasn't much better. They relocated to Marin City, a small city in the San Francisco Bay Area that was also full of crime and violence. Even though Afeni tried to clean up her act, she only got deeper into her addiction. Around that time, Tupac also started selling crack to support himself and hustled on the same street where his mom bought her supply. It caused a lot of tension between them, so in California, Tupac started doing his own thing and became more independent. He eventually left the house and moved into an abandoned apartment building with some friends. In California, Tupac started going to Tamalpais High School in the nearby city of Mill Valley, where he continued to study acting. Even though Tupac still got good grades, school started to seem less and less important. He was one of the only black kids in school and felt like an outsider. Plus, he was struggling a lot at home and wanted to focus more on his music career, so he stopped showing up for class more and more until he finally dropped out and got his GED instead. After dropping out of high school, Tupac started getting involved in the underground rap scene in Oakland. In '89, he went to a poetry class held by a writer named Layla Steinberg. Layla was immediately impressed by Tupac and offered to help him with his music career. She offered to be Tupac's mentor and started introducing him to people in the Oakland music scene. Layla connected Tupac to a dude named Antron Gregory, a local music executive. Antron also thought Tupac had a lot of potential and offered to be his manager. At the time, Tupac also had a group with his homies Ray Love and DJ Dizzy called Strictly Dope. Antron Gregory started helping Strictly Dope get booked for local shows and get more exposure in the Bay Area rap scene. Antron also managed another local group called Digital Underground, who had a big hit that summer with the track Do What You Like. Antron showed Tupac's music to Shock G, the founder of Digital Underground. Shock G was impressed and agreed to give Tupac his first job in entertainment as a roadie and backup dancer for Digital Underground. During that time, Tupac was also in the studio working with Strictly Dope. Layla Steinberg convinced the main producer of Digital Underground, Chopmaster J, to help Tupac and Strictly Dope record music. Chopmaster J agreed to help them because he also knew that Tupac had potential, but right away, he noticed that Tupac didn't work well in the group. Pac was impatient in the studio and used to just pace back and forth until it was his time to go into the booth and record. According to Chopmaster J, it was almost like Tupac knew he didn't have much time and wanted to work as much as possible. Strictly Dope made a demo tape, and Antron Gregory started shopping it around the record labels, but no one was interested in signing them. Those recordings were later released as the Lost Tape circa 1989, but Tupac kept working and eventually convinced Digital Underground to give him a shot on the mic. The actor Dan Aykroyd was filming a movie called Nothing But Trouble and asked Digital Underground to do a small scene and write a song for the soundtrack. Tupac jumped at the chance to show off his acting skills and made his movie debut in Nothing But Trouble, along with the rest of the group. Digital Underground also gave Pac the chance to spit a verse on the song for the soundtrack, which was called Same Song. By that point, he dropped the name MC New York and started going by just Tupac. Same Song was also featured on Digital Underground's next release, This Is an EP. Tupac appeared in the music video for Same Song, which also had cameos from Eazy-E and Dr. Dre. After that, Tupac went from being an unknown underground rapper to appearing in major films and music videos alongside some of the biggest artists in the game. The attention also earned him his first big record deal with Interscope Records. Everything was finally starting to come together for Tupac, and he got to work on his first solo album. His debut project, Tupacalypse Now, dropped in November 1991. It featured appearances from some of Tupac's early collaborators, including Shock G, Ray Love, and Stretch. Tupacalypse Now just barely made it onto the Billboard chart and debuted at number 197, although it eventually reached number 64 and went gold in 1995 after selling over 500,000 copies. The album features singles like Trapped and Brenda's Got a Baby, which are now considered classics. Tupac raps about themes like racism, teenage pregnancy, gang violence, and police brutality. Pac had been on the grind for years and finally released his album, In that same year, his mom Afeni finally kicked her crack addiction. Afeni told XXL she smoked crack and did bad things. But in 1991, she moved back to New York and went to a recovery program. Afeni and Pac's relationship had been destroyed by her crack addiction, and it took a long time for Pac to reconnect with her. He still had a lot of love for her though, and after Afeni had been in the recovery program for 9 months, Pac sent her a check for $5K. Then after Afeni had been clean for about a year, Pac reached out and wrote her a 9-page letter by hand. He made it clear that he wasn't just gonna move on like nothing happened, and Afeni said that Pac kept her humble while she was still in recovery. Eventually, they became close again, and Pac even helped Afeni squash the beef she had with her sister. Pac's relationship with Afeni was complicated, and he aired everything out on the track Dear Mama and rapped, "And even as a crack fiend, mama, you always was a black queen, mama. I finally understand. For a woman, it ain't easy trying to raise a man. You always was committed. A poor single mother on welfare, tell me how you did it. There's no way I could pay you back, but the plan is to show you that I understand. You are appreciated." And after Pac was killed, Afeni started the Tupac Amaru Foundation and created an art center where kids could learn acting, dance, and writing. Afeni carried Pac's legacy on until she died in 2016, and she said God gave Pac 25 perfect years, and he allowed him 25 years to do more than any normal person. In 91, Pac reconnected with his mom and dropped his first record, but that's when his legal drama started too. In 1992, a man named Ronald Ray Howard was arrested for first-degree murder after shooting a Texas Highway Patrol trooper. Ronald blamed rap music for making him hate the police and even said that he was listening to Tupac's song Soldier Story when he was pulled over. On the track, Tupac had lyrics like, "Keep my shit cocked, cause the cops got a Glock too. What the fuck would you do? Drop them or let them drop you? I chose dropping the cop. I got me a Glock and a Glock for the nigga on my block." Ronald Ray Howard was eventually sentenced to the death penalty, and the case brought a lot of negative attention to Tupac's music. The vice president at the time, Dan Quayle, criticized Tupac's music and rap in general and said there was no place for it in society. Tupac defended himself and said that he was only speaking on his own experiences and the issues that affected his own people. Then, right before his album dropped, Tupac was a victim of police brutality. In October 91, Tupac was walking down the street in Oakland when he was stopped by 2 police officers for jaywalking. They got into an argument after they started pressing him about his name, and the officers ended up chokeslamming Tupac into the concrete. Tupac later filed a $10 million lawsuit against the city of Oakland, although they settled out of court for $43,000. So on tracks like Soldier's Song, Tupac claims he was only speaking about his own experiences with police, but he didn't realize it was gonna make him such a target in the media. Even though Tupac was getting a lot of backlash, the controversy only helped expose him to more people, and his career continued to take off. He got another huge break after he appeared in his first major movie role as Bishop in the movie Juice. Money B from Digital Underground was asked to audition for the role of Steel in Juice, but he didn't have any acting experience. He knew Tupac had studied acting back in Baltimore, so Money B asked Pac to help him prepare for the audition. Tupac agreed and showed him exactly what to do, but deep down, Money B realized that he probably wasn't going to get the role. He asked Tupac to come with him for support, and when it was Money B's turn to audition, he bombed. But the producers decided to let Tupac audition for the role of Roland Bishop. Tupac only had about 15 minutes to prepare, but by the time he finished his audition, everyone was cheering. Tupac got the role, and the film was released in January of '92. Juice was also the reason that Pac's real father, Billy Garland, reconnected with him. Billy Garland was in the theater when he saw the trailer for Juice, and when he saw Pac on screen, he broke down crying in the theater. Billy Garland knew a woman named Karen who was Pac's publicist, and he reached out to her about getting in touch with Pac. But according to Billy Garland, Pac's mom Afeni didn't want Billy to be around Pac. Billy said he wanted to reconnect with his son, but he didn't want to just rock up to a show looking like he wanted something from Pac just because he was successful. So the first time Billy actually saw Pac in person again was after Pac got shot in '94. Billy went to the hospital, and later Pac told Vibe magazine, "I thought my father was dead all my life. After I got shot, I looked up, there was this nigga that looked just like me, and he was my father. That's when I found out." Billy and Pac started hanging out, and Billy started smoking weed with Pac and his homies. Then after Pac got locked up, Billy made trips to visit him and show him love. Unfortunately, Pac got so busy after he came back home that he didn't spend a lot of time with his dad, but they kept in touch over the phone. And before Pac died, he was planning on having a big Thanksgiving dinner with Afeni, Billy Garland, and the rest of the family so they could all move on from the drama they had in the past. Juice helped Pac reconnect with his dad, and it was also a hit with fans and critics who were especially impressed by Tupac's performance. Tupac was already proven that he could succeed as both a rapper and an actor, and Juice is now considered a hip-hop classic. Even though Tupac's career was taking off, he still wasn't fully out of the streets and had a wild temper that kept getting him into trouble. Around the same time, Tupac was also cast as Sharif in the movie Menace to Society. Tupac even introduced his old friend, Jada Pinkett Smith, to the Hughes brothers who directed the film. They ended up casting her as the character Ronnie, which was Jada's first big movie role. But Tupac wasn't even in the film because he got into a fight with the Hughes brothers on set during the filming and ended up quitting. Jada had a pretty major role, but Tupac was playing more of a side character. Sharif was a good kid who was headed off to college, but still trapped in the dangerous world of South Central. Tupac wanted a bigger role, but the Hughes brothers didn't see his vision. Other actors in the film like Tyron Turner and Lorenz Tate said that they would be reading lines and Tupac would just be sitting there looking annoyed and refuse to do his part. One day, Tupac showed up late to rehearsal, so Allen Hughes confronted him about it. Tupac was already mad that he didn't get the role he wanted, so he quit the film on the spot. They replaced him with another actor named Vontae Sweet, but the problems didn't stop there. A few months later, Tupac ran into Allen Hughes again on the set of a music video and ended up jumping in with his homies. It was a shoot for the song A Trigger's Got No Heart by Spice One, which was on the Menace to Society soundtrack. Tupac and Spice One were homies, and Pac was the one who picked him up at the airport when Spice flew into LA to shoot the video. When he picked him up, Tupac showed Spice One a newspaper that said he got fired from Menace to Society because he showed up to the set high and drunk and couldn't remember his lines. Tupac was pissed because he knew it wasn't true, so he was already mad before getting to the set. He thought the Hughes brothers were the ones who started the rumor about him being drunk on set, and Tupac kept telling Spice One he was gonna beat their asses the next time he saw him. Spice One had just gotten off the plane and was drunk off Hennessy, so he started gassing Tupac up and told him he wasn't gonna do anything, but he didn't realize Tupac was serious. Tupac pulled up to the set of the video with a group of his homies from the Rollin' 40s Crips and started looking for the Hughes brothers. As soon as he saw Allen Hughes, they started arguing and things escalated quickly. Allen started walking away, but Tupac sucker punched him, so Allen turned around and threw Tupac onto the hood of a nearby car. That's when the Rollin' 40s stepped in, and Allen ended up getting jumped by about 10 dudes. Allen pressed charges, and Tupac was arrested for assault and battery. Tupac hired the celebrity lawyer Johnny Cochran to defend him, who's best known for representing O.J. Simpson. While they were in court, Tupac and the Hughes brothers bumped into each other at the elevator, and Tupac started threatening them again. The Hughes brothers both called him a bitch at the same time, and it almost led to another fight, but security broke it up before it got that far. Tupac still ended up getting found guilty for jumping Allen and served about 2 weeks in jail. Even though they had their differences, years later, Allen gave Tupac his props as a talented actor. Allen said that it was a good thing that Tupac wasn't in the movie because he would have outshined everyone else, and he was at a point in his career where he didn't want to be put in a box creatively. Tupac also publicly apologized to Allen a few years later and said that he was wrong for jumping him. But that wasn't the only legal problems Tupac was dealing with. A few months before that, Tupac got into a wild situation at a concert that led to the death of a 6-year-old kid. On August 22nd, 1992, Tupac was performing at an outdoor festival in Marin City. After the show, he decided to stick around and kick it with the fans and sign autographs. But not everyone was happy that Tupac was back in town. A few weeks before, Tupac had said something bad about Marin City in an interview, so while he was in the crowd, a group of dudes confronted him about it and a fight broke out. Pac was carrying a Colt Mustang pistol, which he was legally allowed to carry, but when he pulled it out during the fight, he accidentally dropped it on the ground. He told someone in his crew to pick it up, and when they did, it accidentally went off. It didn't hit any of the dudes they were fighting with, but a 6-year-old boy named Quaid Walker Teal was hit in the head by the stray bullet. Quaid was just riding his bike at a nearby playground about 100 yards away, when suddenly he was shot in the forehead and died instantly. Police traced the bullet back to the gun that belonged to Tupac. Pac told him that someone else had picked it up, and they ended up arresting his half-brother Maurice Harding, because they thought he was the one who picked up the gun. No witnesses would cooperate, and they never ended up pressing charges due to lack of evidence. No one was ever arrested for Quaid's death, but a few years later, the family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Tupac and Maurice. Pac was really upset about what happened. Even though he didn't pull the trigger, it was still his gun, and Quaid was just an innocent kid riding his bike. So Tupac settled with the family out of court for $300,000. In February '93, Pac released his second album, Strictly For My Niggas. It did a lot better than his first album and made it to number 24 on the Billboard chart after selling 38,000 copies in the first week. The album was hardcore compared to his first project, Tupacalypse Now, which had more of an underground indie rap sound. On tracks like Keep Your Head Up, Tupac raps about respecting women and the problem with absent fathers. But he also included party anthems like I Get Around with Shock G and Money B, and street anthems like Last Words with Ice Cube and Ice-T. Strictly For My Niggas had something for everyone, which is why it did so well on the charts. It was Tupac's breakout album that helped him go from an underground rapper to a mainstream star. While his solo career was taking off, Tupac decided to start a group with his stepbrother Mo Preem and his homies Big Syke, Macadocious, and Rated R called Thug Life, named after the tattoo he had on his stomach. Later that year, Tupac also co-starred in the movie Poetic Justice alongside Janet Jackson. While he was finishing up the movie, Tupac would discover another up-and-coming rapper who would eventually become his biggest rival, Biggie Smalls. Tupac had heard Biggie's demo tape and was bumping his first single, Partying Bullshit, non-stop on the set. At the time, Tupac was already an established artist and Biggie was still in the streets, so the support meant a lot. Biggie had already been discovered by Diddy, but Diddy had just left his job at a major label to start Bad Boy Records. At the time, Diddy didn't have the money to sign Biggie to his new label, but was still helping Biggie with his career. Diddy flew Biggie out to California to shop his demo around the labels. In LA, Biggie knew the person he really wanted to meet was Tupac. While he was buying some weed, Biggie happened to find out that the dealer had Tupac's number, so Biggie convinced the dealer to call Tupac and introduce them. Biggie and Tupac ended up meeting at a party not long after and hit it off right away. The next time Tupac was out in New York, he rode with Biggie's crew. Tupac would bring Biggie out on stage to perform with him, and they worked on music together in the studio. Pac even invited Biggie to join Thug Life, although Big decided to form his own group, Junior Mafia, instead. But Biggie did ask Tupac to be his manager, and Tupac told him to stay with Diddy, cause Pac said Diddy would make him a star. So at first, Biggie and Tupac had a great relationship. It wasn't until a few months later when Tupac was shot in New York that they would turn against each other. But before that happened, Tupac was involved in a few other crazy situations. On Halloween weekend in '93, Tupac went to Atlanta for a show at Clark University. Pac and his crew were headed back to the hotel to party when they saw two white dudes beating a black driver in the middle of the road in front of the hotel. The two white guys were Mark and Scott Whitwell, two off-duty police officers who were out with their wives. Scott's wife had just passed the bar exam and they were out celebrating. They were crossing the street when they claimed that a driver almost hit them, leading to an argument. That's when Tupac and his crew pulled up and saw them beating up the other driver. Without knowing what was going on, Tupac jumped out of the car and his crew followed him. One of the Whitwells pulled out a gun and pointed it at the group, so Tupac pulled out his own 9mm Glock. The Whitwells were pretty drunk and dressed in plain clothes, so Pac didn't know that they were cops. Mark Whitwell ended up smashing a car window with the butt of his gun, causing Tupac to let off 3 shots. Mark ended up getting hit in the stomach, and Scott was hit in the butt. They were brought to Grady Hospital and released the next morning. A few hours after the incident, Tupac was arrested at the hotel and charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault. Tupac pleaded not guilty and quickly posted a $55,000 bond. When the case eventually went to court, both sides told a completely different story. The Whitwells claimed they were in the middle of arguing with the other driver when Tupac came out of nowhere and shot them from his car. Tupac and his crew said that they only stepped in to stop them from killing the other driver and shot back in self-defense. During the trial, prosecutors realized that the Whitwells had lied about key details in the case. They never admitted that they were drunk when the incident happened or that Mark started it by smashing Tupac's window. The Whitwells also admitted that the guns they were carrying were stolen from the evidence room of the Henry County Police Department. So Mark Whitwell was also charged with firing a shot at Tupac's car and making false statements to police. In the end, the judge decided to throw out the entire case and drop the charges against Tupac and the Whitwells. Mark also stepped down from the police force about 6 months later. The Whitwells still wanted payback, so they later sued Tupac. Mark eventually settled out of court, and Scott won $2 million against Tupac's estate in 1998. By that point, Tupac was already dead and no one showed up to court, so Scott won the judgment by default. Tupac got off lucky in that situation, but only a month later, he would get caught up in another wild case that would follow him for the rest of his career. In November 1993, a 19-year-old woman named Ayanna Jackson accused Tupac and 2 of his associates of sexually assaulting her at a hotel room in New York. Ayanna and Tupac already had a relationship and had consensual sex in the past. On the night of November 19, 1993, Tupac invited Ayanna back to his room at the Parker Meridian Hotel in NYC, and she agreed. But while they were hanging out, 3 other men came into the room. Record executive Jacques Agnet, aka Haitian Jack, Tupac's road manager Charles Fuller, and an unidentified 4th suspect. According to Ayanna, Tupac told her that he liked her so much that he wanted to share her with his friends. She later testified that Tupac grabbed her by the hair and started pulling off her clothes while the others helped. Tupac then left the room and she was forced to have sex with his friends. When she left the room, she claims Tupac was sitting on the couch smiling, which made her start crying hysterically. Ayanna went to the police, and Tupac, Haitian Jack, and Charles Fuller were all arrested for sodomy. Police also found 2 illegal guns in Tupac's hotel room, so he was hit with multiple gun charges. Tupac denied the accusations. He said on the Arsenio Hall show that he was raised by strong women and would never do something like that. According to Tupac, Ayanna was only going after him because she caught him seeing another woman and he wanted to end things with her. Tupac later apologized to Ayanna for how he treated her and admits he could have handled the situation better, but he always denied the sexual assault. Haitian Jack's charges were eventually separated from Tupac's case and closed after he pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge. After that, Tupac started to think that Haitian Jack was working with the feds and may have even convinced Ayanna to lie about him to ruin his career. Haitian Jack was a former street dude who came up selling crack in New York in the 80s and 90s before becoming a club promoter and manager, which is how he became friends with Tupac. But even before the situation with Ayanna, Tupac and Haitian Jack started having problems over another woman they were both seeing, Madonna. Tupac and Madonna had secretly been seeing each other after they went to the 1993 Soul Train Awards together. But according to Haitian Jack, Madonna started to realize that Tupac wasn't really who she thought he was. The media portrayed Tupac as this tough street dude, even though he was never really a gang member or drug dealer and grew up studying acting and ballet. People in the industry started telling Madonna that Haitian Jack had way more street cred, so she started spending more time with him and less time with Tupac. After that, Tupac was always suspicious of Haitian Jack. Biggie Smalls and Mike Tyson had warned Tupac about some of the New York street dudes he was hanging around, including Haitian Jack. So when Jack got handed his own special plea deal, Tupac started to think he was secretly working with the feds. His suspicions about Haitian Jack only got worse after Tupac was set up and shot at a studio in NYC just a day before the verdict was read in the sexual assault case. On November 30th, 1994, Tupac was busy working on recorded verses for a mixtape by rapper Ron G when he was contacted by another street dude turned music manager, James Roseman, aka Jimmy Henchman. Jimmy Henchman was a major drug trafficker in the 80s and 90s who used to run with Haitian Jack, but at that point, Jimmy Henchman was also working as a manager for a few different rappers. Jimmy Henchman contacted Tupac and offered him $7,000 to record a verse for his client Lil Sean. At first, Tupac was suspicious because of Jimmy's reputation and his ties to Haitian Jack, but Tupac also had a lot of legal bills to pay and needed the money, so he agreed to go to Quad Studios in Manhattan that night to work on the verse. When Tupac and his crew got to the studio, they were confronted by 3 armed robbers in the lobby. The robbers ordered them to give up their jewelry and lie on the ground, but Tupac refused and ended up getting shot 5 times. Tupac was rushed to the hospital and had to undergo emergency surgery, but ended up checking himself out only a few hours later, against the doctor's orders. The next day, he arrived in court to hear the reading of the verdict in the sexual assault case, bandaged up and sitting in a wheelchair. Tupac and Charles Fuller were both acquitted of the sodomy and gun charges due to lack of evidence, but they were found guilty of first-degree sexual abuse. Tupac's bond was set at $3 million, but he didn't have the money. So he was sent to Bellevue Hospital jail ward to recover from his injuries related to the shooting before being transferred to Rikers Island. A few months later, a judge sentenced Tupac to 18.5 months to 4.5 years for the crime, and he was transferred again to Clinton Correctional Facility in upstate New York. While he was locked up, Tupac had a lot of time to think about the shooting at Quad Studios. Tupac thought that he'd been set up because he had accused Haitian Jack of being a snitch. Tupac even raps about it on the track Against All Odds that later came out after he died. On the song, Tupac raps, "I heard he was light-skinned, stocky, with a Haitian accent, jewelry, fast cars, and he's known for flashing. Listen while I take you back and lace this rap. A real-life tale about a snitch named Haitian Jack. Knew he was working for the feds. Same crime, different trials, nigga. Picture what he said. And did I mention? Promise to pay back, Jimmy Henchman, in due time. I know you bitch niggas is listening. The world is mine. Set me up, wet me up, nigga stuck me up. Heard the guns bust, but you tricks never shut me up." But he didn't just blame Jimmy Henchman and Haitian Jack. Tupac also thought his former friends Biggie Smalls and Diddy were also involved with him getting shot. Biggie and Diddy were both at the same studio that night and went down. When Tupac was walking into Quad Studios, he heard someone yelling his name from a higher floor. He looked up and realized it was Biggie's cousin Lil C's and some other dudes from Junior Mafia. That meant Biggie and Diddy were also in the studio that night. So after he ended up getting robbed, Tupac was convinced they had something to do with it. Tupac only got more paranoid after Biggie dropped a song called Who Shot Ya? On the track, Biggie rapped, "Who shot ya? Separate the weak from the obsolete. Hard to creep them Brooklyn streets. It's on, nigga. Fuck all that bickering beef. I can hear sweat trickling down your cheek. Your heartbeat sound like Sasquatch feet. Thundering, shaking the concrete. Then the shit stopped when I followed the plot. Neighbors called the cops, said they heard mad shots." Tupac was convinced that the song was about him and that Biggie was making fun of him for getting shot. Biggie denied having any involvement in the shooting and said the song had nothing to do with Tupac, but Tupac didn't believe him, and that's what first sparked the East Coast-West Coast beef. But Tupac still didn't have the bread to post bail, so he spent the next few months locked up. To pass the time, Pac started reading books like The Art of War and The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, which is how he came up with his new nickname, Machiavelli. In March of '95, Tupac released his third album, Me Against the World, while he was still behind bars. The album was a huge hit and made it to #1 on the Billboard chart, where it stayed for 4 straight weeks. Me Against the World had classic songs like Dear Mama and Temptations, and is now considered one of the best rap albums of all time. But Tupac couldn't even enjoy his success because he was still locked up. Even though he had a #1 album, Tupac still couldn't afford to make bail. All his money went to paying legal fees, and he was having problems with his label, Interscope Records. Tupac was a major star, but his legal problems made him a liability. All the other labels either didn't want to sign him or didn't want to give him enough money. Only one label exec was willing to take the risk and offered Tupac a deal he couldn't refuse: Suge Knight. By 1995, Death Row Records was one of the biggest labels in hip-hop. Dr. Dre dropped The Chronic in '92, and Snoop Dogg followed it up with Doggy Style in '93. Death Row had a reputation for dropping classics, but Suge was having a hard time developing new talent. Dr. Dre was already a superstar from working with NWA, and he was the one who discovered Snoop after putting him on The Chronic. Suge knew he needed another superstar to stay relevant, but none of the other artists on the label were reaching that level, so that's when Suge got the idea to sign Tupac. Tupac was already one of the biggest artists on the West Coast, and his image was perfect for Death Row. Suge knew he could use Tupac's controversial image to sell records. Tupac was also in a pretty desperate situation. His legal bills were piling up, and his mom was about to lose her house. While Tupac was still in prison, he married his new girlfriend, Keisha Morris. Tupac heard that Suge was interested in signing him, so he told Keisha to reach out. Not long after, Suge sent Tupac $15,000 to help out his mom. Suge then went to Clayton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York, where Tupac was locked up, and offered to pay his bail if he signed to Death Row. Suge had already talked to Jimmy Iovine, the CEO of Interscope Records, about letting Tupac out of his contract. Death Row was partnered with Interscope, and Jimmy Iovine didn't really know how to market Tupac anyway, so he agreed to transfer the contract to Suge. Suge visited Tupac in prison and offered him a 3-album, $3.5 million deal written on a napkin. Tupac was pretty desperate and needed the money, so he agreed to the deal, although it would take a few more months to make it official. While Suge was visiting Tupac, Pac told him all about the issues with Biggie and Diddy and how he thought they set him up that night at Quad Studios. Tupac supposedly told Suge directly that he was planning on destroying Bad Boy Records and needed Suge's support if he was going to sign to Death Row. After Suge left the prison, he flew straight to New York City to go to Madison Square Garden for the Source Awards. Suge ended up winning an award for Best Soundtrack for the movie Above the Rim. While he was giving his acceptance speech, Suge told the audience, any artists out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star and don't have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the records, dancing, come to Death Row. That was a clear shot at Diddy, who was known for dancing in his artists' music videos and trying to take all their clout. And right after Suge went on stage and said that, the East Coast-West Coast beef really started and got bigger than just Tupac's issues with Biggie. Suge stayed true to his word and posted Tupac's $1.4 million bail in November 1995. So Tupac flew directly to LA to make his deal with Death Row official. Tupac had no idea that deal would change the rest of his life, and less than a year later, he'd be dead. As soon as Tupac got out of jail, he hit the studio and started working on his next album. In less than a week, Tupac already recorded 14 songs. In February 1996, Tupac dropped his 4th album, All Eyes on Me. It was the first double album in rap history and debuted at #1 on the Billboard chart after selling over 500,000 copies in the first week. All Eyes on Me was a lot less political than his earlier albums, and Tupac mostly raps about the gangster lifestyle, which was probably influenced by signing to Death Row and spending more time around Suge Knight. Suge convinced Dr. Dre to work on All Eyes on Me, which led to one of Tupac's biggest songs, California Love. The album also features classic tracks like Ambitions as a Rider, I Ain't Mad at Ya, and 2 of America's Most Wanted with Snoop. All Eyes on Me was a huge hit and another classic album for Death Row, although it would also be one of the last. Not long after Tupac signed to Death Row, the label started to fall apart. Dr. Dre left Death Row about a month after All Eyes on Me dropped. Dre didn't like the direction Suge was heading in and thought he was being shady with the money, so Dre decided to leave and form his own label, Aftermath Records, directly with Jimmy Iovine at Interscope. It was probably a smart move, because over the next few months, the beef between Death Row and Bad Boy was about to get a lot crazier. In June of '96, Tupac dropped one of the most disrespectful songs in rap history, Hit 'Em Up. It was a brutal diss track about Biggie Smalls, Diddy, Junior Mafia, and other rappers from New York that brought the East Coast-West Coast beef to a whole different level. Tupac started out the song claiming that he slept with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans, rapping, "First off, fuck your bitch and the clique you claim. West side when we ride, come equipped with game. You claim to be a player, but I fucked your wife. We bust on bad boys, niggas fuck for life." Faith Evans denied that she ever slept with Tupac, although she admits he tried. Right after he got out of prison, Tupac invited Faith to come to the studio and work on music. Faith was a singer who was also signed to Bad Boy Records at the time, but Faith says she didn't know that Tupac was signed to Death Row. According to Faith, she asked Biggie if she could go to California, and he told her to do it if she was getting paid. So Faith went out to California, and they worked on a track, Wonder Why They Call You Bitch. After the studio sessions, Faith claims that Tupac told her to come to his hotel room to collect the $25,000 he promised to pay her for the sessions. When she went to pick up the money, apparently Pac tried to convince Faith to give him head. Faith claims she turned him down, but knew right away that the only reason he wanted to work on music with her was to mess with Biggie, so she left. Most fans thought the line was about Biggie's wife, Faith Evans, but some rumors say that it could have been about Diddy's ex, Kim Porter. Diddy and Kim Porter never got married, but they were dating on and off for years and had kids together too. Kim Porter had a suspicious death back in 2018, and in 2024, a book she allegedly wrote came out where she was talking about Diddy and Pac's relationship. According to the book, Kim and Diddy had an open relationship, and Kim started hooking up with Pac. Diddy was allegedly cool with it at first, but then the situation went left because Diddy wanted to hook up with Pac too, and Pac wasn't down with that. When the book came out, it shocked the whole rap game, but most people think it's all cap and that Kim Porter didn't really write any of it. Nobody knows if Pac hooked up with Faith Evans or Kim Porter, but Diddy and Biggie weren't the only ones he took shots at on Hit 'Em Up. Pac went after the whole Bad Boy label and raps. Plus, Puffy Trying to See Me, Weak Hearts I Rip, Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia some mark-ass bitches. We keep on coming while we running for your jewels. Steady gunning, keep on busting at them fools. You know the rules. Lil Caesar, go ask your homie how I leave you. Cut your young ass up, leave you in pieces. Now be deceased. Lil Kim, don't fuck around with real G's. Quick to snatch your ugly ass off the streets, so fuck peace. In his second verse, Tupac also raps about how he and Biggie used to be tight until that night at Quad Studios. He also claimed that Biggie was just copying his style, rapping, Biggie, remember when I used to let you sleep on the couch and beg a bitch to let you sleep in the house? Now it's all about Versace. You copied my style. 5 shots couldn't drop me. I took it and smiled. Now I'm back to set the record straight. With my AK, I'm still the thug that you love to hate. Motherfucker, I hit him up. Even Mobb Deep caught a few shots on the outro when Tupac raps, oh yeah, Mobb Deep, huh? You wanna fuck with us? You little young ass motherfuckers. Don't one of you niggas got sickle cell or something? You fucking with me, nigga? You fuck around and have a seizure or a heart attack. You better back the fuck up before you get smacked the fuck up. Tupac's problems with Mobb Deep started while he was in jail. Mobb Deep dropped a song called Survival of the Fittest, and there was a bar in the chorus where they rapped, Thug Life, we still living it. Tupac later said in an interview that when he heard the song, it pissed him off because Thug Life was his thing. Tupac claims he told his little homies to pull up on Mobb Deep in Atlanta to confront him about it. Prodigy from Mobb Deep later said that the bar had nothing to do with Tupac. Thug Life was something they've been saying for years. Havoc also said that it was his cousin Ferg who randomly came up with the ad-lib in the studio, years before Tupac was saying it, but Tupac still took it as a diss. Then, Mobb Deep took a side in the East Coast West Coast beef by rapping on Capone and Noriega's LA remix, which was a response to the Dog Pound's diss, New York, New York. On the chorus of the track, Prodigy claimed that rappers from the West Coast weren't as tough as they try to seem, rapping, LA, big city of dreams, but everything in LA ain't always what it seems. You might get fooled if you come from out of town, cause we coming from Queens, it gets down. Tupac clearly thought it was a diss about him, so he took a shot at them on Hit 'Em Up, and even made fun of Prodigy for having sickle cell anemia, a rare blood disease. Mobb Deep responded to Tupac with the track Drop a Gem on Them from their third album, Hell on Earth. On the song, Havoc repeated a rumor that Tupac was knocked out and sexually assaulted while he was at Rikers Island, rapping, you yell my name, that's only giving me props. Plus the fans that you got wondering what's got you hot. It's too not. Knocked out the box and got rocked. Got raped on the island, you officially got. Kick that thug shit. 5 magazine on some love shit. Keep it real, kid, cause you don't know who you fucking with. Tupac also dissed him on the track Against All Odds, rapping, Mobb Deep wonder why niggas blowed him out. Next time grown folks talking, nigga close your mouth. Although, the song didn't come out until after he was already dead. Hit 'Em Up was a huge turning point in the beef between Biggie and Tupac. Before the song dropped, there was a chance that they could have eventually worked things out and gotten cool again. But with Hit 'Em Up, Tupac said some things that he couldn't just take back and might have even cost him his life. To this day, Hit 'Em Up is still considered one of the best and most savage diss tracks of all time. By the end of '96, Tupac was on top of the world. He was one of the biggest artists in hip-hop, and it seemed like his legal problems were getting better. Sadly, he didn't have much time to enjoy it because he was tragically murdered after a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac and Suge Knight went to see the Mike Tyson vs. Bruce Seldon fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Vegas. Suge had his whole entourage with him, including a member from the Mob Power Rules named Trayvon Lane, aka Trey. Earlier that year, Trey had been jumped by a group of Southside Crips at the Lakewood Center Mall in California. Trey and a group of his homies ran into a dude from the Southside Crips at a Foot Locker and started talking crazy. A bunch of other Southside Crips saw what was happening and ran into the store to see what was going on. One of the Crips was a dude named Orlando Anderson, aka Baby Lane, who ended up punching Trey in the face and stealing his death row chain. A few months later, Trey randomly spotted Baby Lane in the lobby of the MGM Grand after the Mike Tyson fight. So Trey called Suge and told him what was going on. Tupac was with Suge when they ran up on Baby Lane. When he saw him, Tupac allegedly asked Baby Lane if he was from the South before punching him in the face. Suge and his crew then joined the attack, and they all started jumping Baby Lane. Hotel security eventually broke up the fight, and Tupac went back to his hotel room. Tupac called his girlfriend at the time, Kadada Jones, the daughter of the legendary music producer Quincy Jones, and told her all about the fight. Then he changed his clothes and headed back out to perform at the Death Row after party at a club Suge owned called the 662 Club. Suge picked up Tupac in a black BMW to drive him to the club. Around 11 p.m., they were stopped by bike patrol officers for playing music too loud and driving without a license plate. They were only stopped for about 5 minutes before being let go after officers found the place in the trunk of the car. Who knows what would have happened if they weren't let off and had to go to the police station instead of heading to the club. After they were let go, Tupac started flirting with two women at a stoplight at the intersection of East Flamingo Road and Caval Lane and invited them to come to his show. About 5 minutes later, around 11:15 p.m., a white four-door Cadillac pulled up next to Tupac's BMW. Someone sitting in the back seat rolled down the window and started firing shots from a .40 caliber Glock into the car. Tupac was hit 4 times, once in the arm, once in the thigh, and twice in the chest. Suge was also hit in the head by a bullet fragment. Even though Suge was shot and the car had a flat tire, he kept driving for about a mile before they were pulled over by bike control, who called the paramedics. Suge and Tupac were then brought to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada. Tupac was still alive when he got to the hospital, but he had to be heavily sedated and put on life support. While he was being carried into the emergency room, he told the doctors he was dying and had to be put into a medically induced coma after he kept trying to get out of bed. Most people involved refused to cooperate with the police. Suge's bodyguard, Frank Alexander, said that he was supposed to be in the car with them that night, but Tupac had told him to take Kadada Jones's car instead in case they needed multiple vehicles. Other members of Death Row, along with a rapper named Yaki Gaddafi, were in the car following Suge and Tupac when they were shot. Yaki Gaddafi was a childhood friend of Tupac and a member of the Outlaws, who was best known for his verse on Hit 'Em Up. At first, Gaddafi refused to cooperate with police, but later said he might be able to identify the shooters. But before police were able to interview him, he was shot in the head in a housing project in Orange, New Jersey, while he was visiting his girlfriend. His murder was never solved, but some people believe he was killed because he was willing to identify the person who killed Tupac. Other members of Death Row also refused to cooperate, including Suge. Suge was released from the hospital the day after the shooting, but didn't speak for about 3 days. Suge told police that he heard something but saw nothing and didn't help much in the investigation. But a music video director who worked at Death Row named Gobi Rahimi told police that another employee said that the killers called the label and threatened Tupac. They're afraid that the killers might come to the hospital and try to finish the job, so Rahimi and other members of the Outlaws guarded Tupac while he was on life support. Kadada Jones stayed with Tupac while he was on life support and played his favorite music. He briefly regained consciousness while she was there, but was in pretty bad shape and couldn't communicate. On Friday, September 13th, 6 days after the shooting, Tupac went into cardiac arrest after doctors removed his lung. They tried to revive him, but they couldn't stop the internal bleeding, and his mom, Afeni, eventually made the call to stop medical treatment. So Tupac was pronounced dead at 4:03 p.m. at just 25 years old. Tupac's death was a major loss for hip-hop, and fans all over the world went into mourning after he died. 2 months after his death, Death Row released Tupac's 5th album, The Don Illuminati, The Seventh Day Theory, under his nickname Machiavelli. The tracks had been recorded earlier that summer and were the last songs Tupac recorded before he died. The album was a huge hit with fans, and it debuted at #1 on Billboard and eventually went 4 times platinum. Some rappers like 50 Cent and J. Cole say it's one of their favorite albums of all time. The entire album was recorded in a week. which is where the name the Seventh Day Theory comes from. But some fans also thought there was a hidden meaning behind it, and Tupac's name, Machiavelli. It even sparked rumors that Tupac was secretly alive and that the shooting was all a hoax. The original Machiavelli was a writer during the Renaissance who Tupac read about while he was locked up. There was a rumor that Machiavelli faked his own death to confuse his enemies, then came back after 7 days. So some fans thought Tupac had done the same thing and faked his death so he could escape the fame and live a normal life. That led to tons of conspiracy theories that Tupac was alive and living in Cuba or other random locations. It also didn't help that for years, the Las Vegas police had no leads on who killed him. Suge and other witnesses refused to cooperate with the cops, which didn't give them much to go off of. A year after the murder, the detective in charge of the investigation told the newspaper that Tupac's murder might never be solved because there weren't that many clues and most witnesses wouldn't talk. So for years, the case went cold. That opened the doors for fans to create their own theories about what actually happened. One of the most popular theories is that Tupac's death was part of the East Coast-West Coast beef. 6 months after Tupac was killed, Biggie was also murdered in a drive-by shooting in California, leading to speculation that Suge Knight or someone else connected to Tupac ordered the hit in retaliation. Another theory was that Suge ordered the hit himself because he thought Tupac was about to leave death row. Some fans thought it was suspicious that Suge was only grazed by a bullet, while Tupac was directly hit 4 times. The fact that he refused to talk to police about what happened and had a history of using violence to get his way in the music industry also didn't help. Some fans thought Tupac was planning on leaving death row to start his own label. So maybe Suge realized that Tupac was worth more money to him than if he left death row and took him out before he had the chance to leave. For years, Tupac's murder was one of the biggest mysteries in hip-hop, but now it looks like the truth might finally come to light after police made an arrest in connection with his death. In 2023, the Las Vegas Police Department arrested a dude named Dwayne Davis, aka Keefe D, for Tupac's murder almost 27 years after the shooting. Keefe D was a member of the Southside Crips and the uncle of Baby Lane. It was pretty shocking to fans that they finally made an arrest after so many years. But to anyone paying attention to the case, it wasn't that big of a surprise because Keefe D had been talking about his involvement in the murder for years. In 2008, Keefe D got arrested for selling PCP and cocaine after one of his customers was wearing a wire. He was facing life in prison for the charges, so Keefe D told police he had information about Tupac's murder and was willing to tell him everything in exchange for immunity. He told investigators that he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but he was in the car when it went down, and it was his nephew Baby Lane who was the one who killed Tupac. By that point, Baby Lane was long gone after he was killed in an unrelated gang shootout just a few years after he allegedly killed Tupac. Keefe D told police that he would have done it himself if Suge had pulled up on the side of the car he was in, but Baby Lane had the clearest shot and used a Glock that was hidden in a secret compartment in the armrest. Baby Lane had a clear motive for wanting to shoot Tupac and Suge after they jumped him earlier that night, but according to Keefe D, that wasn't the only reason the Southside Crips wanted them dead. He claims they were also offered money to kill Suge or Tupac, and it was Diddy who ordered the hit. Diddy first wanted to take out Suge after he dissed him at the Source Awards. Then when Tupac dropped Hit 'Em Up, Diddy added him to the list. Diddy met with the Southside Crips at Greenblatt's Deli in Hollywood, where Keefe agreed to kill them both for $1 million. So when Tupac and Suge jumped Baby Lane that night, it gave the Crips the perfect opportunity to get them back and collect the money. Keefe D claims that he would have kept his mouth shut if it weren't for the fact that Diddy never paid him. He tried for years to get the $500,000 Diddy owed him for killing Tupac, but he was never able to get in contact with him after that. So when he got arrested, Keefe D decided to throw Diddy under the bus to avoid life in prison. Keefe D's accusations were out there for years. His confession was taped by a former LAPD officer named Greg Kading, who published a book about the investigation called Murder Rap. The confession was also featured in the Netflix documentary Unsolved in 2018 and the BET show Death Row Chronicles. Around the same time, Keefe D published his own memoir, Compton Street Legend, where he gave more details about what happened that night. Keefe D claims that when he met Diddy that day at Greenblatt's Deli, he could tell he was afraid and said, "Like a lion on the Serengeti, I'm able to smell and see fear." Puffy was full of fear. The Southside Crips had a tradition of going out to watch Mike Tyson fight, and they had no idea Tupac and Suge would be there. They planned to meet up at a cafe in the lobby of the MGM Grand, but started to get suspicious when Baby Lane didn't show up. Some 11-8 East Coast Crips told them they saw some dudes from Death Row jump him in the casino. Once they confirmed it was true, that made the situation personal, and they decided it was time to make that $1 million. Keefe D got the murder weapon from a dude named Zip, who was there with the rapper Foxy Brown. Then they went down to Club 662 and waited for Tupac and Suge to show up. Keefe D had known Suge for years and planned to confront him when they got there, but they didn't show up for over an hour and a half. Keefe D wrote in his book that it was a good thing they didn't show up to the club, because if they did, it would have been like Al Capone's Valentine's Day massacre. They decided to leave the club, and Keefe D got in the Cadillac with Baby Lane and 2 other Crips named Bubble Up and Freaky. They stopped to buy some champagne, and as they were leaving the liquor store, Keefe D saw Tupac stick his head out of the BMW. They pulled up behind Suge and Tupac at the stoplight. According to Keefe D, Suge looked terrified, and Tupac grabbed for his gun, and that's when Baby Lane started firing. After the shooting, they drove off and ditched the Cadillac and popped a bottle of champagne to celebrate. In the book, Keefe D said now that he's older, he regrets being involved in what happened to Tupac because he was a talented artist with the potential to influence the world. But he also said that they had no business putting their hands on his nephew Baby Lane, and Tupac got himself involved with some people he shouldn't have messed with. After publishing his book, Keefe D even did a media tour to promote it. He did an interview with Vlad TV where he talks about his involvement in Tupac's murder. Keefe D didn't say much about it in the interview, but he did tell people to read the book and claim that everything he wrote was exactly how it happened. Around that time, Keefe D was battling cancer and wanted to tell a story before he died, but that turned out to be a huge mistake because he ended up beating the cancer only to get arrested for Tupac's murder. So after years of being one of hip-hop's greatest unsolved mysteries, it looks like fans might finally get the truth about what really happened to Tupac. It's still unclear if everything Keefe D said is true. Another affiliate of the Southside Crips testified before a jury that Freaky was actually the one who killed Tupac, not Baby Lane, because he had the clearest shot. But however it went down, there's enough evidence and confessions to prove that Keefe D and the Southside Crips had something to do with it. Whether or not Diddy wasn't actually the one behind the hit is also unclear, but with all the accusations against him, it's starting to look more and more possible. Whoever was responsible, Tupac's death was a major loss for hip-hop. Even though he was only active for a few years, Tupac will always be remembered as one of the greatest artists of all time who inspired an entire generation with his music. It's tragic he was killed before he could reach his full potential, but at least he made a massive impact and left behind a legacy that will live on forever.